so it's almost 1 o'clock. It's almost time for my movie appointment, my movie date with my friend Morgan. And this is where I am so far. I ripped apart the mock-up and I cut out all the pieces, but I forgot to add the length to them. So fortunately this is the lining, so I'm just stitching pieces on the bottom to adjust for that. And the sleeve pieces are done and they're over there. I do need to switch to silver thread or gray thread in the sewing machine, so I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to wait to cut out the actual fabric for the outside, the fashion fabric, until I have the lining mostly assembled. I don't know if that's the best course of action, but I at least need to get these pieces attached. And I can, like, I'm not going to sew up the shoulder seams because I think that's how I'm going to flip it back out. I think I'm going to bag line it, but I can assemble everything else and make sure everything still fits the way I want it to and make the proper adjustments. But for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go set up with some hand sewing in the living room in front of the TV on the couch where I'm nice and comfy, and I'm going to watch Labyrinth, and I'm going to hand sew that trim just on the top. I'm going to let the bottom hang free because why not? Also less sewing, less hand sewing. I'll sew it down if I feel like I need to later. But that's what I'm gonna do for the time being while I watch my movie. And yeah, I will check in if I make any progress tonight. If I don't, then I will see you tomorrow. Alright, so it's about 10:15 and I thought I would do a check-in. I've made 0 progress on the bodice because, as expected, well, movie date didn't quite go as expected. Labyrinth is not on Netflix anymore, so we couldn't watch it because we weren't going to pay for Amazon or YouTube to rent it. Because we both own the DVD. We just didn't want to dig it out. So we ended up watching Bridgerton. I really enjoyed it. It was fun. But while I was doing that, I did start to hand sew this fur trim on the base of the skirt. I also looked at ordering more of said fur trim, and there's some sort of issue with it in the store, so I can't order it in the store for in-store pickup. So I'm ordering it online for delivery, which means I'm also ordering the fabric medium because I already have to pay for delivery fees. Like, I have to pay shipping. So I'm gonna order 2 spools of 6 yards of the fur trim. And I'm gonna order another thing of the metallic gold paint and 2 bottles of the fabric medium and 2 bottles of the blue color. So I'm ordering 5 bottles of paint and 2 spools of the fur trim. So that's fine. I'll just continue to hand sew the trim on there during my video chat, and I will hand sew then. And Zach and Emma are going to school again tomorrow, and I don't have any appointments in the morning. So my goal tomorrow is to get the bodice done. Today, before bed, I think I want to try to get all of these extender pieces attached to the lining, because I'm a dum-dum and didn't extend the pieces like I should have. So I'm going to try to get those done there. And I'm going to mark on these pattern pieces much larger that I need to extend the bottom so I don't forget. Yeah, so I'm going to sew these on, sew them together. Probably not tonight, but I'm going to try to sew the extenders on tonight. Because it's already late. I'm gonna go sew and we'll see how far I get. Alright, so progress report before I go to bed. Bodice lining is assembled. It doesn't look like a whole lot. It just looks like a pool of silver water. It is very slippy and it's kind of a pain to work with. and started laying this out. Realized it's almost midnight. I'm going to bed because cutting velvet is hard and I need to have all of my wits about me. It doesn't chalk mark. I tried to mark the extension that I need on here with chalk, and it's not working, and this is too dark to mark with a any other fabric marking pen, and I don't even know if that would work, so I might be thread marking. I don't know. But yeah, so I need to have my wits about me to cut this out, and that's gonna involve sleep. So I'm gonna go to bed and I will check in again tomorrow. Alright, so it is morning on Wednesday. Today's Wednesday. I just finished cutting out all the velvet pieces. I have that big chunk of velvet left. I'm gonna wait and assemble the bodice and then see if I can maybe make myself a fun velvet skirt. I don't know, and line it with the silver that I have left, because I have a lot of silver left. I overbought this fabric because I wasn't sure how much I was gonna need for the sleeves, and yeah, that's not a bad thing. It's actually a really good thing to overbuy your fabric. It's beneficial because it means that you have something to work with in case you screw up, which is why I'm not making plans for the velvet until I've sewed this together, because if I need to go back and recut something, like if I cut a sleeve wrong or if I sew something wrong, then, which is entirely possible, it happens, then I have extra. So if I need it, it's there. If I don't need it, then it's whatever, and I'll have a quick project where I can whip up a nice velvet skirt with some silver lining, because there's not enough to do a cloak, because I thought about that. I might do a capelet. That might be fun. A capelet with a Ravenclaw capelet, that might be fun. And I've got I don't know if you can see that. These little, they're star rivet things. That might be cool. So we'll see. I have time. I have to finish that, so it's not like I am without a project to work on. Yeah. So I need to look at, I'm going to assemble the bodice pieces and see about getting the bodice put together. I'm going to figure out where I want to put boning in the bodice, so that can happen before I sew the lining and the bodice together, because I want to put the boning, if I'm putting boning in it, I want to put boning channels in just the lining so that they're hopefully not visible through the velvet. Velvet's kind of flimsy and light, but it's got that like fuzzy bit on it, the nap on it, so hopefully it's not gonna have the boning, the lightweight boning show through. I am just using zip ties because, you know, I have them and they're fairly easy to use, so, you know, that's what we're gonna do. Yeah, so that's the plan. I'm gonna assemble the outer layer of the bodice. I'm gonna look at boning channels, and I will check in when I've got something to report. It's official. I need a dress form that is longer waisted than Daisy, because Daisy about made me have a heart attack because I thought I had cut the bodice wrong again. So when I put it on her, obviously it's really long, but it also, like, it fits weird, but I just tried it on and it's fine. So I'm pinning it back on her so I can figure out boning channel placement, and I'm just gonna have to ignore the weird fit on her. I'll show you what I mean in a second once I get it pinned back on. You see how it's like weird and bubbly? That's what I mean. I put it on the dress form and I was like, oh god, this doesn't fit. I cut it too big. I screwed up. No, it's just because I added this extra length at the bottom and it's causing puckering back here, which is causing wrinkling up here. And so it's just, it's like 2 inches longer than it needs to be on her. So it's not fitting properly on her. But I just tried it on me, which is why I'm wearing my corset, and it's fine. It's fine. So I'm gonna proceed and keep moving. And yes, I am in the living room so that I can multitask and watch costume while I do this. But anyway, I'm gonna go drape and put on my hoodie because it's cold. All right, I'll check in a little bit. All right, so here's what I've done. I am going to use this excess here that came, I did use the back pattern piece from that pattern because, you know, it worked. It functioned on my back. But I'm going to use this excess here since I'm doing a zipper and not a lacing panel. I'm just going to like have some here to sew the zipper, and then I'm going to use the rest of this since this is a selvage edge and it's going to be the lining. I'm going to use this as a bone casing, so I'm just going to like sew along the edge here and then sew like however far next to the boning here, so that there's some space here for the zipper and the boning's not going to interfere with me. I'm going to end up hand stitching this along the edge of the zipper, so it's not going to be a huge deal. And then I put a boning channel in the side seam, and I'm not going to put boning channels along the princess seam. I don't think I'm going to need it because I've got the structure of the corset underneath. But I am, because this does come down to a point and I want it to sit nicely, I'm going to stick a boning channel in here in the center front. So I'm going to finish pinning those down. I'm going to take this off the dress form. I'm going to finish pinning those down while I finish watching my YouTube video, and then I am going to take it to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew it. And then maybe we are tackling sewing velvet. Hooray! Alright, so boning channels are sewn in place. And I don't know if you're wondering this, but the reason they're sewn to the wrong side is because this is the side that's going to be facing my skin, and then this is the side that's going to be inside, and then the wrong side of the velvet is going to be against this, and then the right side, the fuzzy side of the velvet, is going to be out. So that's what's going to look like on the inside. There are stitch marks there, but you know, it's whatever. And the sleeves are here. This is sort of like a mess of things because I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing next. I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to sew this sleeve bit together because I need to sew the lining to the sleeve at this edge here. And then I'm going to baste this edge together and then gather it because then this will be tucked between the lining and the outer part of the sleeve itself. I have the bodice pieces laid out. I have like 1,000 pins in use right now because I've got the actual sleeves pinned together. I'm using a lot of pins because this fabric, both fabrics are really slippy, and I need like 1,000 pins to keep it together. So I'm going to be doing this in phases. I'm going to sew these two sleeve pieces and the sleeve bottom bell bit together, reclaim all those pins. Then I will sew this sleeve bell together. And you can see like my pin cushion normally has a lot more pins in it than that. And some of those pins are bent or not very sharp, and some of them are actually like sewing machine needles or hand sewing needles, but I have a bunch of pins in here because this is where I pinned my pattern piece to the velvet to cut it out. So I need to reclaim those pins as well, and I'm going to reclaim these pins and pin. I'm probably going to start with this seam here to the center front piece, sew these together, and then sew the back pieces onto these pieces. That'll be my next round of sewing things together. I'm trying to batch process this, but I'm running out of pins, and I'm scared to not use as many pins because this fabric is crazy slippy. And yeah, so we'll see how far I get before my video chat, my very important meeting with my friends. And then, so I'm hoping to finish this today because tomorrow I have an eye doctor appointment in the morning, and I have, Emma's daycare closes at 3. So I will go to the eye doctor and then I will pick her up pretty much. I will probably go to the eye doctor, go to the grocery store, pick Emma up at daycare, bring her home, we will eat lunch, she will take her nap, and I might be able to get some stuff done then. But I've got a lot of hand sewing that I need to be doing, hand sewing the rest of the fur trim to the skirt, which I'm going to do during my meeting, and I want to get the bodice to the point where I also have hand sewing so that maybe New Year's Day I can be sitting on the couch watching The Mandalorian with Zach and we can, you know, I can be hand sewing and doing that. And I'm still wearing my corset because I was too lazy to put my bra back on and take this off, and I don't know if I'm gonna need to do another fitting, so I'm just leaving it on until I have to, you know, leave the house and go get Emma, because I'm not wearing this out of the house. It is as I expected and feared. I am having issues sewing this. So you can see it's wrinkling, it's not staying lined up. The slippiness of the lining and the wibbly wobbliness of the velvet are making it so that it's wrinkled and puckered, and so I'm going to hand baste these pieces together. Well, there goes the idea of this being done anytime soon. Cool. Cool. It's fine. It's totally fine. I'd rather have it done right and like it than have it not done properly and not like it. So I will pull this seam out and we will start again. So we've had some success. I was able to sew the velvet to itself. This is, you can't even see that. Dang. Okay, hang on. Let's go under the light. Sorry for the camera angle, Zach. Alright. I don't even know if you're going to be able to see this. Alright, so I have managed to sew the velvet to itself. Man, this is terrible lighting. Okay, I think you can see there. So there's the seam there, and it's basically invisible, which is nice. It's not the best stitch work I've ever done, but it disappears into the velvet, so so that means I can sew the velvet to itself. It's just sewing the velvet to the lining that I'm gonna have to hand sew, which means I'm just having to hand sew the bottom sleeve pieces, and then I will probably have to hand sew the bodice itself to the lining, which is better than I thought it would be. So I'm gonna attempt to get some of this sewn together today, and I will do some hand sewing while I have my very important meeting, and we will see how far I get. Good evening, friends. So I realized I hadn't checked in with where we are. First of all, very slowly, exciting computery things are happening. It's, do you want to give an update?
It's not broken anymore. It's just
Hooray.
slow.
Yeah.
System restoration.
It's gonna take a little while. But you know what? She's been asleep for a while. It's gonna take her a little bit to wake up. So what I did while I was in my very important meeting is you can see the obnoxious yellow thread. I hand basted the edges of this together. It's still having issues. I don't know what's going on, but here we are. But that's hand basted together for me to figure out later. I stitched together the velvet layer of the bodice, and the velvet sews just fine to the velvet. It looks like a giant black hole here. I promise this is navy. And I put in the bones in the boning channels, and I am now pinning the lining to the exterior of the bodice. I am gonna hand baste this and I'm gonna try sewing the bodice together. I think part of the problem is the sleeves are not the same shape, and so I'm having issues with them. I'm gonna use some scrap fabric and I'm gonna like see if I can figure out the, I put on the walking foot to sew the velvet together. As you can see there, I put that together, and I am hoping that that is helping, and I'm going to test to see if the walking foot works better on the top or the bottom, or works better with the velvet on the top or the bottom. It works really well for sewing the velvet to itself, which is nice. The velvet went together to itself fairly nicely. It was actually not terrible to work with once I got it pinned together, because the nap on the velvet kind of catches the other layer. So it wasn't terrible, but this lining fabric, this was a mistake. 0 out of 10 would not recommend. Use a sturdier lining fabric, like what you would use to line your jacket. You don't want to use to line something that's velvet. Okay, so that's done, and then when this is done, I'm gonna figure out the top bits of the sleeve, because if I can put in the top bits of the sleeve and do that, then that's gonna be a lot easier, and then all I will have left, oh, and the zipper. Cool. Yeah, at least I have a zipper in stock. It's the right color. Navy invisible zipper, and it's the right size, 12 to 14 inches. That should be plenty long enough. And if it's not, I'll just put some hooks at the top. It'll be fine. Because I'm not buying another zipper, because I already had to buy 2 more spools of faux fur trim and some paint. That's the other thing I have to figure out, is this stencil situation. Well, that can wait till the paint gets here. And I've got plenty of hand sewing to do until then, and I'm going to hand baste this bodice together. And yeah, I'll see how far I get. I'm really not feeling very motivated this evening, so we'll see. Alright, so I'm about to go to bed, but I wanted to check in and show you progress. I realized that what I was doing was not going to work for lining, so set you down. I went ahead and I sewed the sleeves and then to the lining, and I sewed together the top of the arm side, and so I have a nice 80s style poofy sleeve. It's not quite that poofy, but you know, close enough. It'll be poofy enough to be a princess sleeve. And then I am in the process of attaching the sleeves to, that really does look like just a black hole, the bodice. And it actually maybe kind of looks navy a little bit. It's just a navy hole and not a black hole, but that's the sleeve. And it's got the little sleeve poof cap thing. And then I went to pin the other one on, and I pinned, it's still partly pinned together. Oops. The elbow part of the sleeve, I pinned that to the bodice instead of this part of the sleeve. So I'm going to bed. I'll see you in the morning. Good morning. It is a new day. It is New Year's Eve day. And I am gonna try tackling some more of this. I'm gonna attempt to put the sleeve in before my doctor's appointment. But in other news, it's in theory working. I need to set it up on my desk, which currently has my school laptop and my Patterns of Fashion books on it. And then this can move there. And I can start uploading clips directly to that and editing them in iMovie because Zach got it working. So I can do that and not rely on Zach to get it done on his computer, which is frustrating. His computer, like, it's led a good life. It's ready to be put out to pasture. We just need the capital to do that. And replace it with something that is up to Zach's standards and does what he needs it to do. Therefore, yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna go get started because I have a limited amount of time to drink my cup of tea and do this and set up that before I go to the eye doctor. Yay, I'm gonna get new glasses. I might be able to see when I do hand sewing. Alright, I'll check in before I head out. Alright, I am back from the eye doctor. I did not check in before I went to the eye doctor because this camera was plugged into Zach's computer downloading clips because the files on this camera are saved in a file format that cannot be read by a Mac. Something about Sony proprietary garbledy-gook stuff. So, they're all uploaded now. Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out how to change the file format so that my computer can read the files and I can actually edit them in iMovie because my computer doesn't even recognize that there's anything on this camera, on the card, on the memory card. It just thinks that it's an empty USB drive, basically. So, we're gonna figure that out. I didn't get any sewing done because I was setting up the computer and then dealing with the tech issue, and then I had to go to the eye doctor, and my prescription is worse. I'm getting new glasses. They're really super cute. It should be 2 weeks before they get here. I'm excited. I also should be having some packages arriving here soon. I made cupcakes last night for my dad's birthday, so I need to deliver those. I'm gonna pick up Emma at school. Her school closes early. So I'm picking her up at noon because they should be done eating lunch by then. So I'll pick her up at noon, go to my mom and dad's house and drop off his cupcakes and his present for his birthday because we're gonna do a Zoom call at 4:30 so he can have cupcakes and we can sing happy birthday. And then I would like to get that last sleeve sewn into the bodice. It is sitting over by the sewing machine, all sad and lonely. Look at that. It's so sad. It wants to be sewn together, but I have not sewn it together. It has been ignored in favor of the computers. So I'm gonna go do that now and probably eat some food. Alright, so I have eaten lunch. I have taken care of all of the files on Zach's computer. They're all labeled and numbered and in the right folder for the right project video. That's done. I've eaten lunch and I have sewn the sleeve together, and now you can't see it because it's inside here. I have, oh Lord, losing pins. The bodice lining pinned just along the top and at the shoulder seams because I know that's where I want them to meet up. So I'm gonna sew those together, not right now. Once I get home and Emma has napped, or Emma is napping, I will sew those together. I'm gonna do some tests with my scrap fabric, using the walking foot, having the velvet on top, having the velvet on the bottom, and just kind of see what works best to see if I can actually put this through the machine without hand basting all of it, because sweet mother of pearl, it's a lot of hand basting. But my goal is to get the bodice sewn together today. We'll see if that happens, because then it's functional. If the bodice is sewn together today, it's functional. It's not done, because I still need to do the painting and finish the trim. But the trim I can hand sew. I have another Google Meet tonight with my parents, so I can hand sew then. And I have to wait for the paint and the fur trim and the fabric paint medium to arrive. I have to make the hoop skirt, but my pattern and my hoop steel should be arriving today, sometime in the next hour, so that's exciting. So I want to get the bodice done today so that I can work on the hoop skirt. Because I think that's the last, other than like finishing touches, that's the last piece of this project. Because I need to finish the bodice, I need to do the stencil and paint detail, which I have to wait for the paint to get here to even start working on that. I have to sew on the trim, which again, I have to wait for the trim to get here to finish sewing it on. And I need to figure out the bow situation because there's a hair bow and there's a bow on the front. But I don't know what I'm using for the bow. I think I'm gonna try to find a bow, like ribbon to make the bow, because it's a navy bow, like navy, it looks like a navy velvet bow with gold trim, and I'm not sewing gold trim on this velvet. First of all, I can't iron interfacing to it. It won't hold its shape as a bow. It's too drapey. It works just fine for the bodice and for the flowy sleeves, but it's not gonna work for a structured bow on the hair. Like the Disney bows require a lot of infrastructure and almost like wire to make them stand up the way they do. So that ain't gonna happen. So the hoop skirt, the bodice, the detail work, the bows and the trim. I don't have the bows, I don't have the rest of the trim, I don't have the stuff for the bows. I don't have the stuff for the detail work, the paint. So it's the bodice and the hoop skirt. So I'm gonna finish the bodice so I can start working on the hoop skirt, because then I'm just waiting, like then I'm waiting on other things to arrive so that I can actually try to use them and finish this. But if I finish the bodice and the hoop skirt, then I can start working on the mock-up for the Foundations Revealed donkey skin dress. Yeah, and that would be nice. I also have like this is still waiting for me to make it into a dress. And the American Duchess cape. So, we'll see how far we get. But I'm gonna go pick up the Tiny Human. Happy New Year, everybody! So I've been trying to sew things together and do tests, and it seems like I have a solution worked out. But then I ran out of bobbin thread, and I was having issues. I hit one of the zip ties that I was using as boning. I hit that, and I was having issues then after that with my thread tension. Like you can see, this is the bobbin thread, and it's like all gross. So what I did was I grabbed a separate piece of fabric. I was trying to see if it was the fabric that was the problem. You can't really tell on here. Like the tension still isn't great even on this fabric after rethreading the machine. So what I did was I replaced the needle in the machine, and I seem to have bent the needle because replacing the needle completely fixed my tension problem. So if you are having issues, try replacing your thread, or try rethreading your machine, the top thread, try rethreading the bobbin. And then if it's still giving you issues, don't muck with the tension, replace your needle. That's my tip for today. Replace your needle, because these things don't like sewing machine needles apparently, and a bent needle doesn't sew. Anyway, I'm gonna try to get this attached. Happy 2021, everybody. Wow, I look a hot mess. But 6:30 in the morning. I'm very tired of making coffee. What I got done yesterday, I stitched the sleeve bits together and I trimmed it down. It's not pretty, it's not perfect, but even with the walking foot and the sleeve basting, or in the, yeah, basting the pieces together, this fabric still doesn't want to stay together, so I'm just doing the best I can and making it work, because that's all I can do. And the nice thing is the velvet hides a multitude of sins. So the lining fabric doesn't so much, and this is the only part of the lining fabric you'll see really, but here we are. I also did finish sewing. I don't even know if you can see this because it's dark outside, so finished sewing the bodice together. I have it pinned around the neckline because I'm going to do some hand sewing to make that stay where I want it to stay, because again, it's very slippy. But I need to sew the bottom hem, so I need to make sure that this is, you know, I'm not even going to bother trimming it because it's so squidgy. Oh Lord. Okay. Alright, I just roughly pinned it back. I'm not even going to bother trimming it, I don't think, because it's so squidgy. I'm just going to try to pin it kind of where it needs to be so that it doesn't bubble. I am thinking that probably what I should have done is pad stitched the whole thing to itself, or flatlined the lining in something a little bit sturdier, like maybe the mock-up, but you know, here we are. And my quest to use the leftover fabric to make a skirt or a capelet or what have you is on hold because I don't think I'm gonna want to work with this fabric anytime soon. At least not these two fabrics together. So I'm gonna flip this out. My coffee just finished brewing. I'm gonna go get a cup of coffee. I'm gonna finish flipping this right side out and then go get the tiny human because it's about time for her to be allowed to get up. All right. Check in later. So I have some success. I was digging through my mess of a drawer. It has become a mess. It was not always a mess. I do, when this project is finished, before I start the donkey skin, I am going to clean and reorganize because oh my god. I'm not even going to show you because it's awful. I found lace and it's not perfect, but it'll work, which means that this keeps rolling in on itself. It means that I can go ahead and sew this to the inside of here as I'm hand sewing this down, which is awesome because then I don't have to do it twice. Yay. I'm really excited about that. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna sit here and do that, I think, and procrastinate that because I don't want to do that right now because I think it's gonna piss me off. And right now, I can't go there. So, lace is the project. I'm gonna hand sew the lace. I'm gonna hand base the top together because I need to do 2 rows of gathering stitches. So I'm just gonna hand base the 2 rows of gathering stitches, and not worry about it. So, because then if I can finish the bottom parts of the sleeves, then the annoying part is done and I just need to do the bottom part of the bodice. And again, I might wait till the fur trim gets here to sew the fur trim. That might be my answer. So I might wait till the fur trim gets here to sew the fur trim to the neckline to make sure that everything is tight and where it needs to be without pins before I pin and sew the bottoms together. That might be what I do. Alright, so now that I've worked out what I'm doing, I figured I would show you what it is that I'm doing. You can see I've done a little bit here, and I am stitching it to both layers, but you can't see any of the stitching on the velvet because the velvet nap just hides like all but the most egregious stitches, and I'm using the navy thread. Ugh, that's all out of focus, whatever. So I'm using the navy thread so it doesn't show. So what I'm doing is I found I need to pin the lace to the sleeve because otherwise it gets all wibbly wobbly. But I just have the encased end of the lace just inside the edge of the sleeve so that most of the lace trim is going to be visible from the outside. And then I am, and please forgive my hand stitching, part of why I am doing this is because I need practice. So I'm taking a back stitch here at the beginning and I'm going through all the layers. So I'm going down and you can see the needle comes up through the velvet. And then I am coming back up. So that is a back stitch because I've gone behind where the thread is coming out. And then I'm doing a running stitch from here. So I'm just grabbing the silver. I'm going to remove this pin because I keep stabbing myself. So I'm taking a couple of running stitches and then pulling that through, and you can see my stitches are massive. Historically, sorry, the viewfinder is upside down for me. Historically, you would have like 10 stitches per inch, and I think I have like 4. So they're huge, but part of this is I need to practice and practice doing bigger stitches so that the technique is right, so that when I am needing to do smaller stitches, my technique is correct and my stitches can be small. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to turn the camera off because I think I don't want to time-lapse me poorly doing hand stitching. So that is what we're doing, and I'm going to keep going because I have a lot of sleeve left to do, and that's only one. So yeah, I'm going to keep going and I will check in when I've made some more progress.